Good evening. It is 7:13. Now call to order the July 11th meeting of the Weare Conservation Commission. Lori and Steve are to my left and Sherry to my right. Bill is unable to join us tonight, so we have a commission of 4. And right out of the gate, I can express some thanks for town administrator helping us out with an agenda. And we'll only add a few email items, but she's put together the correspondence from the mailbox quite nicely. So that's very helpful. Anybody? We got, you guys are both with MTL? That's good. All right, so we got Jeremy and one of his cohorts here for MTL on a quarterly meeting. We have one other guest, and you are a young lady?
Delilah.
Delilah. It's very nice to have you tonight. You're with?
Boy.
Excellent. Hopefully it's not too bad of an experience for you. At least you have dinner, so that's good. We've got some minutes to go over. We got some planning board items. We have some DES items. But right off the bat, we'll take our town forester, Jeremy Turner, for his summer quarterly report.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Jeremy, the town forester.
Nice to meet you.
Which one was Sherry? Over there. And
I'm Lori.
Lori. Okay. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Jerry.
Yep. Sure.
Thank you. Easy on the sign up there, okay?
Yep.
It's still standing anyway.
Good.
Yeah. Good. Alright. Okay. Well, happy summer, everybody. Yeah, I did bring along Jim Ferrente. He's a relatively new employee with the company. We hired him last fall, and he's been with us since then. And he lives in Hopkinton, so he does a lot of field work with me down in this area. So I thought it would be a good chance for him to.
Jim, how's your last name spelled?
Ferrante.
Okay, thank you.
You related to Frank? And Weare? No.
Not that I know of.
I think he's moved now. Anyhow, that's how we got Pine Hill. I mean, that whole area.
Oh, yeah.
He's from the Ferrante family.
Oh.
There's not a lot of us around.
Yeah, so anyway, he's in the woods with me quite a bit in this area, and some of that's on your property, so it seemed like a good time to show you a new young guy entering the forest business. So I thought I'd just kind of start like I normally do. I was last here in December, and we kind of were sort of in the midst of the Fair and Pond project, which we since then have successfully closed up, and that was a really successful project, I think and feel, and we've conducted some post-harvest reviews and monitoring, and wood closeout, stream resource impacts and everything are very minimal, if any, and all we have left at this point is to finish up the gate set, which has to be custom. I think we talked a little bit about that in email. You already had budgeted $2K for that, so that's actually going towards the $3K custom set, and we got those nice posts that were already there that were set, and who knows how much concrete by who knows, probably the state, Fish and Game back in the day. I don't know who set that, but it should work really well for that.
I think it was Fish and Game.
Yeah, okay.
I used to do a hike up in there a lot.
Okay, yeah.
I used to go through a lot with the draft horses, exercising them, so I
yep.
think they were there.
Nice, okay. Draft horses.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of pulling out of logs with them.
Okay, we gotta talk. Yeah, it's always fun to talk with a drafts lady. And then repair the road for safety and stocking purposes. So those are the last two items that we have. do there. In terms of the timber harvest, projections are far exceeded, actual income far exceeded my projection, which is market related. So that was, it's a super good problem to have. So I think we cleared right around just under 60,000 after all my fees and all costs. So
What are we doing on the road? We bringing material in as well, or?
no, we looked at all over, and it's some really pretty decent sorted gravel. That whole it's almost like an esker formation up there. So no, it's good. It's good road base, and for that, we can evaluate that another time. I don't think we need to cap that with anything. We'll just get the diversions in, for water flow and storm events, and just make sure that, the water goes away. It doesn't continue high velocity like it has for a long time. There's been a tremendous amount of erosion on that road to make it basically a big ditch. So we talked, the crew's gonna drop some of those high shoulders and make sure we get ditch lines and, relieve the water flow, cross drainage and stuff. So, like all these improvements, modifications, it's gonna change a sense of place as you walk up there, but over time, things do come back to vegetation and green and such. So
They know to watch it with that private land right at the beginning of the road on the right.
mm-hmm.
Right. 'cause
Yep.
it comes in.
Yeah, it runs right down the side of the road, really. Yeah.
When you get on
Yep.
this property.
Yep. So all those 2 items will get completed before month end.
Jeremy, how many acres was that you cut off?
We cut on the town land about 100 plus or minus.
100 acres?
Yeah, roughly. Yep. All right. And since I last saw you also, we've started working on laying out the Felch Farm project out behind the town transfer station. And that'll be a really fun, exciting project. We're planning on meeting with the UNH Cooperative Extension. I think I sent just an FYI to the chairman here about meeting with wildlife biologists from the state Cooperative Extension and a county forester to show them some things that we're doing on town land, and to invite them to give us some ideas for habitat enhancement, because that property, its location, it bodes very well to do some creative habitat work, because it's remote, it's not around really any suburb or development interface. It's nestled in a really high quality wet meadow, backwater of the Piscataqua. So from a habitat standpoint of wetland and interface and edge interface, that deep woods juxtaposes that wet meadow system and some of those working hay fields. And so it's got some cool things on a landscape level that I felt we should look into with some people that could give us some advice on how to enhance, just do some different things, an opportunity to look at some different things that you can't always do on most of the woodlots that we manage. So I can keep you posted on that. We're gonna meet at the end of the month over there with Matt Tarr and Ethan Villaire, who's the new forester that took over for John Newt, young gentleman, who we actually saw today. Yeah. Beaver Road access on that. For some of you may not know, but there's a main road that we built in the 90s to go through to get way out back, and over the interim of the growing cycle, 20 plus years, 25 years, ruin, and and there's a stream crossing there, and the beavers have been there for, I'd say, at least a decade. And with that high water flow, it's flooded that whole town. It's an access road. It's not a public highway or anything. So for access purposes, we've removed so far 6 beavers, and have just stopped, taking a break, and just seeing how they respond to that that correction in their density, and we'll see. And I actually asked the town road agent Benji to go down there if he had time and to start to dismantle some of that dam system that's on top of the road going into the unit. Okay. Yep. Super. So, and so that's where that stands at this point. So we've been working out there, at least dedicating at least one day a week for the past month and a half probably to working on laying out that project and starting to mark and getting a handle on that.
This is gonna be selective cut?
Yeah, so it's gonna be it's all marked and laid out. So yeah, it's selection system cutting through removing groups of it's called group selection, and then we'll probably carry out some, I think, early successional habitat with Matt if that seems appropriate. It's a 2H system. The 25-year ago harvest initiated a lot of hardwood transitions of polewood like that under some of the nastiest pine I've seen in a long time. I mean, there's some pretty ugly trees out there.
Bull pine, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so it's a 2H system. So we'll probably do some even age work as well, and we'll do some creative stuff out there. There's some I'd say I don't know about unique, but some complicated wetland interfaces back towards the transfer station that won't see any work. So there's going to be reserve areas. There's going to be all kinds of things out there that has a blend of management and passive management.
So what happened in the understory? Was it like, is it black birch or is it acceptable, regen or what's in there?
Yeah, so I'd say a majority of it's acceptable. From a hardwood standpoint, the pine that had been there, unfortunately, in that snowstorm of 11 or 26-17, I mean, it smacked it all, and it's all snapped and broken down.
Really?
Like, yeah, it's really unfortunate actually, because we're planning on moving all of our main skid trails and avoiding a lot of that nice pine that came up in those heavy scarified areas, but it's all been completely deformed and stem snapped from a heavy snow load. So the pine regen is pretty much absent at this point. So probably we do get a cone set, I think. So 2-year cone set. So this September we're planning on doing this possibly late fall. It's a dry site, a good charge rate, so it's winter work. So it might give us an ability to scarify during snowless periods for pine. So
What about running a dozer line around it and then run fire through it after the cut?
that's my man right there. Yep. Yeah. I think we can do some kind of fire ecology, especially on the oak sites. There's some oak sites with there's one in particular that I'd like to do a modified shelterwood or even maybe a modified seed tree. Because we got another nut set. We've seen that all over now. There's acorn. When I say nut set, so that the trees are bearing another viable nut. This is the 3rd year in a row, and the past 2 years have been moderately heavy. This one appears that it's omnipresent, and how heavy it is, we're not clear yet, 'cause we're not harvesting a lot of super canopy oak right now. But so there's going to be seeds. With the seeds, there's opportunity to initiate young systems successfully.
I mean, if we had, if they're good, solid water bodies, streams, and wetlands you can tie in there, you can save a ton of money there, and you're able to just light it off. It gets expensive when you're trying to hold, small
Sure.
areas with fragmented lines. And
Yep. Yeah, there's a peninsula out there that, it's probably 10 acres, and it's probably 70% surrounded by the wet meadow and open water. And it's in Esker, and it's a very dry, fire-influenced site. I guarantee there's char under it. That could possibly be a real strong candidate for that. I think,
There's remnant pitch pines up there. Probably fires.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah, if we get that out there, yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
Yep.
I wouldn't cut those and then run fire through and keep them, if you can.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, we don't cut pitch pine
Pitch
much.
all red,
Yep, so, yeah,
Also
wha-
render.
that's all, certainly things that we need to consider post-harvest, I think. It's a good place, appropriate place to practice and experiment with that fire college, I think. So, any other questions on Felch?
How many acres?
This is gonna be probably another 100,
100 acre?
125, I think.
And was it selective cut, Farron Pond, was that selective cut?
That was for the most part all even, mostly all. So yeah, so we did group and patch work up there, and then a lot of group selection. So yeah, fair amount of selection up there.
Yeah, I think, maybe, because that term worries me a little.
Yeah,
That really, so there are a couple different silvicultural systems. And kind of the simple split is even age versus uneven age.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about selection in the forestry sense, I think we tend to think about uneven age management as sort of true selection. It gets tricky. There's like an inverse J curve you're trying to match the distribution to.
Mhm.
And then there's even age. And if you really think of like natural ecosystems in the Northeast, probably a lot of them were created in an even age environment. A hurricane, certainly when humans cleared the landscape and then they abandoned, which is a lot of what we're looking at.
Yeah.
They came back as an even age system. So we tend to think of thinning and shelterwood systems and clear cuts as even aged, and then group selection and individual tree selection as uneven aged. And then I think some people think of just select cut as we have a forester who is going out and marking the trees versus kind of a chopper's choice where it might not be such a regulated
Right.
forest management activity. So just and there's probably a lot of reading you could do on that if you haven't already, but
Mhm.
just want to be real careful with how
Yeah.
we portray that term.
sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I've always been very interested in inviting people. If you're ever, I'm your fourth. So if you want to go out anytime and take a hike and see what's going on, it's a
Oh,
super.
wow, that'd be great.
Yeah,
That
anytime.
would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yep.
you're gonna be over at Felch Farm, you said, in about a month?
Now we're there every week, at least one day a week. So so we're always out there on that particular project. And if there's any woodlot that you have a special interest in that you'd like to go look at,
Yeah. I haven't walked in there, but I've probably been on most of the conservation
Yeah,
town-owned property over the years.
Yeah.
Because I've been in town my whole
Sure,
life, but I've
sure.
done a lot of hiking through it.
yeah. So that's the best place to learn, right? In the woods and tactile experience, and rather than reading that jargon,
Mhm.
So that's an open invitation.
While we're on terms, let's just toss this one out there. Is this a bad term in the forestry world, that term clear cut?
No, not at
It's got
all.
its place, right?
Yeah, it's like anything that's
But
not
when
used.
the term you've used is patches, right?
Yeah, so clear cut is a spatially driven sort of qualifier. So clear cuts are typically fairly large. Technically, U.S. Forest Standards, I think, is 10, 15 acres or greater. Of every stem severed.
So
Right.
we've never employed that in any of our
No.
forests, because we're not looking at that size of
We've
Well, we use patch clear cut. So
patch.
Yeah.
All right, let's work the
the
term.
discussion is always, when's a group become a patch and when's a patch become a clear cut, and it depends on what you're shooting for. So we want to regenerate aspen, and early succession. That's an early successional tree. You need to get the shade. usually shooting for root suckers, and you need to get the shade. Just a little bit of shade interferes with that regen, so that's, you get shade from edges.
Right.
So that's why you do it. We call it silvicultural clear cut. A lot of people throw clear cut around, and they're not clear cuts. A clear cut is there's nothing left. There's not a merchantable stick of wood out there. It's a silvicultural clear cut. It's all gone. And those are, some terms that get misused a lot too.
Yeah, right. And I'd say on the town land, spatially, we have barely reached a true patch cut by definition. So we're in big groups. I'd say gap level patch cuts. 3 acres, and those are modified. So we're leaving enhancements. Legacy enhancements and super canopy trees, oversized trees, den trees, tree habitat enhancement, brush piles, down wood, structure. So a lot of functional components that we encourage to leave in place and make and leave, so they're not just devoid. Because you got to think like all these parts of the puzzle we're working with, salamanders to frogs to hares or birds of prey. So we try to build all these components that make the system a bit more robust from a habitat standpoint. So
How large has the typical patch been on the work we've done in the last few years?
So say
If
at
there is such a thing.
yes, yeah. So Fair and Pond, I think we put in one, two, 2, 3, maybe. Large groups to small patches of 1.5 to maybe the biggest one is 3 acres, if that. And if you look at it, and I've got some really great photography of all these things that we've been experimenting, because I believe forestry is a big experiment in placements and intentionally placed based on good science where they are and how they appear prior to cut and then post cut, and you can just see all these parts and pieces that are very progressive and non-traditional in these openings that we're making. So that's kind of historically what we've done. Elsewhere, most of it's been really, technically a uneven age type of harvest system. So I argue that I practice multiple age. It's just a term that I like to use because we're always trying to leave all age classes throughout the whole system, but you may enter certain acreage where there's, there's just 50-year-old trees, or you may enter an acreage that has, we've cut and it's back to 0. There's no age. It's going to be a new age class that's coming up. So there's all these, different age structures throughout the whole property, if you will. So but anytime we can walk in the woods and talk about it, that's the best place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Right, Jim?
You might want to mention maybe about today's harvesting equipment, the way it operates, the whole multiple age system is a little more feasible than uneven age. Just the size and the scale of operations make it difficult to practice that in a very narrow scope.
Right. Yeah. When you think about draft harvesting, you can, really sneak in and, back in and pull and cut, and work around and wiggle. And so, yeah, the machinery and technology now is, the scale of it's just, at times it's disappointing, but at other times it's really pretty awesome because we're lucky to have in this region, and some of the people that have worked for us on projects are the best in the world. Some of these families that work in the woods that run these machines are the best operators in the world. They're asked to run and prototype machines from across the world, and they do it, and they do all the research and development, and they work in the woods for us. We're very lucky to have skilled, skill sets that are running these big machines, because if you didn't, I mean, it goes on all the time where you don't have really capable people that are running big machines and they make a problem, so.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, you know, kind of on that line too, is perception, you know, people that don't really understand forestry, because so some of the different systems that we've used, cut to length is one of them, which is really a, you know, pretty modern operation where the, you know, the equipment that falls the tree is also delimbing and also cutting the product length, and then it goes on the back of a forwarder, and that really keeps the topwood compacted and it protects the soils. So it's, yeah, you might see a lot of topwood there, but to me it looks really neat. You know, some people aesthetically have a preference for like a whole tree chip job, but you know, inevitably the spacing needs to be wider, and then there's sort of the discussion about, you know, if you're depleting nutrients, and you have to be careful about, you know, how much you tear up the soil if you have multiple skidders running
There's
all
no
the time.
money when you chipping good sized logs out of there. I mean, you're only getting $3 or $4 a ton.
Well, yeah, usually, I mean, they're, you know,
If
that's
that, right?
utilization. Yeah, I mean, the chips aren't worth anything, but it's what you're trying to accomplish. You know, if you're trying to fix a stand that has really low grade material and you're trying to start over, or you're trying to, you know, kind of weeding it. So we did some of that, I think, on the Eastman Conservation Area for that reason, because it just isn't any other way to get rid of the stuff. We don't have a real robust bulk market around here. And
Firewood.
so that's one way to go.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's our job when we're out there thinking about your goals and objectives and what you're trying to steward and demonstrate as a, you know, public landowner to all the people that own the property, all those objectives, and trying to match, you know, the work to what you guys want, and then how do you get that work done with what skill set and what type of machinery and what kind of work, all these things based on the resource, because it's there's a lot to it.
Right. What actually ended up happening for the cut up on Poor Farm?
What actually ended up happening with a cut up on the
In
pool
what
farm?
Because
regard,
I-
Sherry?
Well, because when I went up there, things didn't look too good. I mean, we had trees that were 20 feet in the air, broken off, and there was a lot of pretty heavy stuff left on the ground, cordwood size. I mean, stuff like this. People in town were going up there and cutting it. That's how much you couldn't walk in there. So I was just kind of wasn't real. To me, I wasn't impressed with it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so that, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, there's systems out there that leave residue, and unless you're chipping and have, you know, big machinery to pull the whole tree system. So that system, we felt, based on the recreational trail system and the road interface and the wetland resources and all those impact, we felt that what I call a horse job on steroids, a cut to length system, which you carry the wood, you cut at the stump, you delimb, you buck, and then you remove all the round material, and then everything else stays right on the site, and it makes a mess
It was.
to people.
It was a mess.
But
I mean, you
to the
couldn't even walk in
biology,
there.
it's just there's, it just, science-wise, it just puts you off the chart in terms of like resource enrichment for soil development, for all your microbial development, your you know, a lot of your rodents and a lot of your insects, and your protein loads for all your, you know, your food, all your food budgets and stuff out there in the woods. So yeah, from a human standpoint, that we like clean, pretty things. The woods, good forestry isn't necessarily a clean, pretty thing. And so what happened up there? There were a few people, you know, that went hunting. They tried dragging deer out, and they tried to walk through some areas that they used to walk, and it was different.
Couldn't walk in it. That's for sure. It was waist deep. I
Yeah.
was up there. I mean, I couldn't walk anywhere up there.
Anywhere. Wow. Yeah. So, so certainly, anytime we cut wood, it changes the sense of place, and then people that are very familiar with it, some of them can understand it. Other people get very upset, and that system does make a lot of brush.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't up. I mean, I just thought there was a lot of wood left there. I mean, when you got stuff 8 and 10 inches through,
Yeah.
I didn't understand why it wasn't pulled.
Yeah, yeah. And so, so the other dynamic that has occurred in the last 10 years is that the pulp paper industry, especially with pine, though it's changing a little bit right now, went away. So all of a sudden, you know, we're 80% of what we're cutting today in the woods under most removal systems are low grade, and which means it's firewood or pulpwood. It has, you know, nickel value, and it travels far away, mostly as pulpwood. Like half of that was a pine resource that went away. So all this pine down here, if it wasn't chipped, it was left in the woods. And that was a very standard, and it still's happening right now. So when you get below something that's sawable, you know, on a pine system, you're gonna see oversized wood. You're like, well, why in the earth are they taking that out? And it's a market-driven issue, you know. There's nothing to do with it.
If you can't, if you look at any piece of wood that's laying around, if you can't envision sawing something that's at least, 6 inches wide out of it.
Oh, yeah, I'm
It's
not
not-
saying
yeah.
that, I'm just saying the hardwood that was left there, I just
Oh.
thought that they'd have taken it out, even if they'd been sold for cordwood.
Oh, yeah.
They're getting a few $100s a truckload
Yep.
for long
Yeah.
length cordwood, and
There
there's a
shouldn't-
lot of it on the ground.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any hardwood up there, except for if they weren't, merchantable lengths. But because the hardwood, that system is actually it overproduces your scale tallies, because they're very efficient in getting all the round wood out. So it's a pulpwood driven system. So the hardwood residue shouldn't be much. There shouldn't be much up there unless it was,
I don't know what's left now, I haven't
Yeah.
been up there for over a year, but
Yeah.
there were guys up there with dump trucks, filling dump trucks with cordwood.
Yeah.
I mean, they were cutting out brick, lugging about 4-foot stuff
Yeah.
and throwing it in the back,
Yeah.
I mean,
I
that's
know.
all they could do.
I know a lot of our jobs, we see guys going in after on pine pulp jobs like that one, and because they have outdoor furnaces, and they just load it all up with softwood.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then
the
burn
guys
it.
that were loading this stuff wasn't loading pine, this was all hardwood, it was
Yep.
some rock maple. and
Wow.
I was just surprised that
Yeah.
that much of it was left,
Yep. Yep.
was all.
Well, so it made somebody happy then. That's good to know. Firewood guys, anyway. So, but if you want to hike, that'd be a fun one to hike. We could go up there and look at that and just talk about how that's responding and what we did, and so.
Yeah.
Any other harvesting
Well,
questions?
clearly, and we've worked on this, and we need to keep working on it. There, the communications and expectations
Sure.
of, what's going to happen when there's work done in the woods, and that sense that one person's mess is another person's, dream, or another creature's dream
Sure.
habitat.
Yeah,
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 and the value of sometimes having things that just look like debris on the ground within the slash laws is
right,
sometimes beneficial
right,
and sometimes intentional. But if it's beneficial and intentional and that word's not out, then it just looks like a mess, and we're
right.
kind of handicapping ourselves a little bit,
Mhm.
hobbling ourselves in our PR side of the
Sure.
game, which is pretty important.
Right,
We're always,
Yeah.
what we can do is contingent upon what the residents will support here in town.
yeah, absolutely,
The keys come from the town folk.
yeah, absolutely.
And also maybe educate our town people better when we're doing a cut, perhaps.
We've been working on that, and sometimes it goes great, sometimes the interest just isn't there, but we need to keep it.
Yeah.
I think the
Mhm.
word is just, keep that at, a pretty prominent place as
Priority,
as we
absolutely.
do any of these.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every
work
single
episodes.
harvest, and we will continue to do this, is for, I'm a firm believer, and we take Saturdays and we make sure it's a public notice, and we work with Cooperative Extension, we'll work with the the actual local county level to get the word out in local land trusts to, we'll partner up with local land trusts that have an easement on the property. We've done this on every single project here, and have a date for a Saturday from like 9 to 10 noon. I'll bring donuts and coffee, and we've had a few of them, and in fact on the Poor Farm we had 48 people show up, and we had a number of third-party professionals there that are resource educated and practiced, and walked all around and showed that whole harvest being completed, and that was awesome. There was several people that showed up that were completely upset, and they knew that they didn't like it, and they left there understanding and okay about it. So those are the teachable moments for everybody, both as a landowner and the general public. And sometimes there's just no interest, so we always do put it out there, but sometimes like Andy said, there's a good turnout and other times there's not. But I feel it's a very important responsibility for us to make that priority. Yeah.
Can you send out an email so we know when you're gonna be around?
Yeah.
So we can
Yep, absolutely.
do a walk or whatever?
Yeah, yep. So I'd envision, once we know, so with the Eastman project, it's right near the transfer station, so people are familiar with
Felch Farm.
Yeah, Felch Farm, excuse me. It's right by the transfer station, and good parking, and it's, we could do something on Saturday when it dumps over. I think it could work out pretty well with the time, and the place, and when that'll occur. Definitely is planning to happen, but we'll make some notices and
The
such.
one at Farron never happened, did it?
No.
All right, because you put a fair bit of effort into trying to coordinate and get, PLC and others to
Right?
kind of
Yeah.
go with that one, and ultimately it
No, it just didn't
so.
happen. But I ended up taking the whole PLC board out, the board of directors out. When was it? This spring, after everything's been done and nothing had greened up, so it was still pretty raw and fresh. And we hiked for 3 hours, and there was some people there that couldn't, really believe it. But when we were done, they understood. They came from a standpoint of understanding the purpose and intent. That it wasn't just.
I think about the row we had on Eastman with just painting the boundaries and not understanding,
Right.
because it hadn't been done for
No.
ever.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it was, well, shoot, that looks too bold. Well, it's different. It's a change,
Yeah.
but it's a purposeful change, and we need to, not paint them over with black. We need to keep them there and acknowledge that boundaries are important to us
Mhm.
when we're managing
Right.
properties. And
Right.
so we have each one we need to keep in mind that they're the lessons learned.
Sure.
Communications to be opportunities to be tried time again, regardless of whether the last one had much interest or not.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And then we also start to get to know and you guys get to know the community investment in a certain property a little bit better than you would before.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
that's helpful, because you start building relationships and the opportunity to have folks who are in the area notify you of things that maybe need correction, due to
Yeah,
activities
gatekeepers.
that
Gatekeepers. We got all kinds of them that will call us and be like, "Hey, the greens are a good example." And
sure.
actually, I drove up there tonight just to see to the Eastman access from the sharp corner, and as I understood, there was a lot that was sold or something on the town road. So
And that's
Next one up
and
in the greens.
I'll even
Where?
The next one up from the greens on the right, it had there's a, in the deed, they can use that same right away.
Oh.
It's like
Oh, so
shared driveway.
it's been cleared, the right to use it.
Yeah, it was
There's no easement over that road,
there is.
but they've got a right to pass over through that easement.
So did you go, when you cut up there on Pine Hill, is that how you went?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm surprised as that's, I don't know what you did, I haven't been up there, I'll have to go out, but I remember quite a quite a few years ago, Fred Blackman walked that all off with teams of horses, and I can remember that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's-
he's gone over a lot of country
Yeah,
for dead.
well, he's gone now, but the train station was right there out on the end, and he
Yeah.
always put the horses in there at night.
Wow.
So he left them right there on the job site.
Yeah,
It was
the
kind of
hovel.
fun. I mean, they were at my house more than they were there in that building though. They came up all the time, because I had a lot of horses, so they came up to visit every
Well,
morning.
it's different,
I had to walk them down, back to
Right.
Well, when you park your team, it might not be there.
No, right.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, they're a little self-initiated on
Right.
some of those work.
Yeah, right.
projects, so
Yeah.
fortunately, our equipment in the woods isn't very self-initiated. It has to be,
Yeah.
No, and that,
has to
all
be
that's,
powered up. so.
yeah, and all that stuff was sawed out there. I don't know
Right.
if those piles of sawdust were out there, but they must have been 30, 40 feet tall out there. They had big,
You can't keep that stuff around if it's out in the weather.
Yeah.
no, it's probably rotted down now, but it's been years since I've been out in there, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there were comments there about, oh, there's a lot of stuff down on the ground, you can't walk like you used to, and,
Mm.
well, we get through it, you know, and then a couple of years later, it's very different, and then, you know, as it matures a little bit, you start to see some of the reward of the work that you did a few years back.
Right.
So,
Right.
Well, I think the people that say that, you know, is because if they were in there 34, well, probably pushing 50 years ago, Blackman, Fred did that. That was all windrowed. He'd go through and they'd windrow that right out and then
Yep.
pull the logs and leave the brush in rows.
Right. Clean from the horses' travels.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen a lot of photography of horse logging, and
Yeah, you got,
There's a lot of debris.
They're not walking in brush up to their bellies.
no, a lot of brush handling and stacking and such. But and I would one further comment is that we're very lucky to have the resources that we have in terms of the educational outreach with UNH Cooperative Extension. You know, we've got professional educators that trained in all these different sciences, from the pollinator project that we did to wetland system, to biologists that we, you know, foresters. So I feel it's very important to have a third party of that type to come and kind of give us just a, you know, a check mark, say, yeah, you know, this is pretty good stuff, or, you know, it's just, I think it's important, check of accountability. So I'm a firm believer in having them always on the ground with what we're doing.
We had a
Alright.
good diversion there, so.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good. So, Wolf Creek boundaries. We've finished up the bounds over on Wolf Creek, which is now painted and signed, like the rest of the entire ownership. It feels good. That was a complicated one too.
That's on the backside of Horace Lake,
Remember that?
Wolf Creek.
We did, for Viridian, and I believe we paid them, so I think we're all done.
Is this all paid now?
Yeah.
Alright, so everything up here is paid to you guys? We got
Yep.
some-
Yeah, everything's done.
That's going in there.
Yep. Everything's done, and I believe paid.
Well, we
yeah.
haven't been billed for the gate, for
The
the,
gate's
for the
down here, right?
gate in the road.
The
But-
Wolf Creek bounds, I don't think you've been billed for either, or if you have, it just got here. So.
Yeah.
Alright, so that stuff's all 17 then, everything up here.
Yep,
Is
it's
it
all been
covered?
budgeted and yeah. Yep.
Yeah, no, just whether it's encumbered. Just kind of ticking off this year's 20.
Mm-hmm.
So Farron Pond was initially 2,000 on FSA, and that's changed to 4.
Yeah, I think that's.
So
it's
how
been
does that work? If that was 17 2K and had to change to 4,
Or be pulling two out of,
can you do that? 2 out of.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's 2 out of 18. And 2 out of 17.
Okay. Is it you good, Steve?
Yeah, just trying to keep track of what we're doing this year
Okay.
out of that. Okay.
All right. So in progress and proposed, currently I talked about the gate and the road repair and closure at Farron. The pollinator habitat annual evaluation, that whole habitat enhancement and investment. I think it's really important that we continue to keep an eye on it and see if it's how it's going and let you know. So we're gonna be heading up there. It's high summer, and right now we'd see the bulk of the blossom set. So and get a handle on the next part of the next item, which is invasive control, and that's a pretty big eruption on that property down there. So so we'll be working at Eastman. There's a very tiny eruption of so the whole idea of our invasive program at this point, including with you guys with all your different lands, we know the lands really well now. We've been working going on 11 years now, I think, here, and so we know where, you know, you've got like these little fires that are starting up, or big hot spots. So we're just trying to get a good handle on a mapping level, like where it is, and and get an idea of what type of level it's at. And some levels are just, it's not worth the resources from the science standpoint. You know, it's just too much manpower and resources to even tackle, and resources basically shifted to a non-native environment, and your native systems are gone, which you have some of that happening. So that's part of this next thing, is that we just want to get a manageable, reasonable, and practical approach to control some, not all of your problems, but some where they make sense from native forest resource standpoint. And so these 4, Felch, Woods, Eastman, and Farron, are kind of the ones that we know really need attention for us to get monitoring and start to nip some of these things.
You know, with Woods, with euonymus and the understory, that it's all through there, what even could we really do with that?
Yeah, so I'm not an expert in this. We've got another gentleman that's licensed in New Hampshire, and he's the guy that can look at systems and sizes and species and know like what's reasonable and when you do it and with what and how and all that stuff. So the understory over there, I suspect he's going to say we should probably, because it's not well developed. It's certainly, it's present,
Yeah,
right?
it's all over it, yeah.
It's present, but it's not like this seed bearing, system at this point. So I suspect he's going to encourage us to do something prior to any work.
I mean, what's the layman's name for what we're talking about there at Woods?
Burning bush.
Burning bush, yeah, right. Winged euonymus, yeah. So, but that's the thing. We want to, this is all serious stuff, and we want to go about it the right way with the right science and the right best management practices and stuff. So, just because you got them doesn't mean we're going to just go out there and start, trying to control everything. So we want to take a systematic approach and be accountable with that.
You know what products, I assume like glyphosate, I don't know if Garlon or if, any surfactants, and
I'd say
something like Habitat. I forget what that begins with an I. I forget what the name of that one is.
yeah, I think the bulk of what Connor uses is glyphosate. Bulk stuff. There's certain other applications that he's using with high heat, and there's certain days where the efficacy is, from a chemical standpoint, you modify so it stays where it's supposed to stay, and there's a whole science to it. That
Yeah, we just had that guy from the state, Doug, I forget his last name, from agriculture, come down to the base.
oh yeah,
But yeah, I mean, there's we're trying something different on knotweed this year. That one ends, it's Habitat, but I forget what the chemical is begins with a I, but it's got way longer latency in the soil, which is good or bad depending on how you want to look at it.
I was talking to Connor the other day, and a lot of it's more moving towards more like a cocktail of chemicals.
Yeah.
To ensure that you get control of the plants you're trying to kill.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what the state's using, but if you come off Clinton Street and get on 89 South, they've sprayed all along in there, and that stuff's gone. It's dead.
yeah.
Well, I've noticed this. I I'll pop them back up. It's a very difficult plant to eliminate 100%. It's a process. It's not a one and done sort of situation. It takes years, really, of careful, of watching over it to make sure that
I've been cutting and spraying stuff. The state brought fill in
Yeah,
right across the road. It was full of knotweed.
yeah.
Never had it around the house at all, and now I've got it across the road because the birds are seeding it.
Mm,
I'm not real happy about it.
yeah.
Yeah, so that guy Doug's been working with those guys that from DOT. I mean, it sounds like that's I forget what the percentage was. That's glyphosate with a surfactant. I think it's towards the end, going towards fall when they did that.
Yeah, fall that's when you're supposed to. That's what I've been told by Connor anyway.
Yeah,
All our knotweed projects are, after flower.
yeah.
All right.
So do you want to, now, do we have money allocated towards that? Do we want to do an FSA? Do we want to vote on the 5,000?
We've already got an FSA on that.
So that we already voted on that one?
Yep, in December, I'm pretty sure.
Well,
And it's burning bush, this invasive control that you're dealing with?
No,
Just-
that's just at Woods.
Oh, that's
Yep,
just that wood.
Yeah.
That's the cocktail, that's a different thing.
So-
Mhm. Yeah, right.
do we well, if that was December, that would be, unless we,
I think we talked about it in December, and I shipped something down in January for you guys
so
to
we vote on that January. I don't recall voting on it. That's
Okay.
just trying to get this year's budget nailed down and keep better track. Maybe if we could put that on the sheet too, like the actual FSA date.
Okay. On the quarterlies, just reference them.
Yeah.
If they're existing, reference them.
Yeah.
Okay. We can do that.
Trying to find the minutes.
Yeah.
And while he's looking for that, food for thought, just looking ahead, because a lot of the forestry program we're involved in going over a decade. This is starting to be updating, and with a planning standpoint, all of our planning is based on a 10-year period. So just looking ahead, Felch and Eastman, our plans will be expiring next year, so we just want to start to think about planning for that also. And then there's going to be repainting, and so there's all this whole cycle of management timing that's going to start to recur.
Could we come up with, instead of 15 an acre, can we just come up with a list of what the plan update, the proposed cost is per plan?
Yep,
for the
absolutely.
meeting?
This is totally just a FYI. It's nothing. I'll get you something that's much more.
Yeah, I think we want to get rolling on them now, though, out of this fiscal year, out of that appropriation, because it looks like, as far as the budget goes, right now, we've only got two that I know of. We've done, so much of the groundwork already,
Right.
and now, so we're into this update cycle, that we've got the overall management plan, and then the individual parcels, and if we can even get a spreadsheet on what year they need.
The updating.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Yep.
then, so we can talk about that, at a meeting, so you could either, email them to us if you wanna come up with something, or certainly by the next quarterly. Then I'd almost like to just do this is always, we've got this open forum and no one ever comes in, so it's hard to gauge, what people value or don't value, if there's something we need to address or not. That's what I find frustrating when you hear you know, the comments after the fact, we've always been really open and transparent, posted all the plans, had a public process, and nobody shows up, you know? And then all the outreach, so it's just, here we are, going into the next planning cycle, time to give some input, you know, if anyone's got any.
Yeah. Yeah, so what I'll do is before the next the quarterly update, I'll have some things for you guys to have, for that next meeting.
That'd be great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, what are we looking at? Motion, empty office area. But do we encumber anything?
Just for paying Meridian.
Yeah, so that didn't do us any good. So the Meridian stuff was encumbered.
And then we paid that in January.
So what, alright, so the gate may not have been encumbered then,
Correct.
so that's all out of this year,
We'll have to check with Beth on that.
right? And then we don't know, so Wolf Creek Management Plan, was that,
That's,
Part of the,
that was a while ago, and that's been paid, I believe.
that's paid? The bonds payment is signed on Wolf Creek?
Yeah, that's an old encumbrance, and,
Well, no, it wasn't, so we encumbered 5,000 for Meridian, is all we did.
oh, well, it's, so the Wolf Creek bounds, you know, that, those FSAs for all boundary work, they're at least a 12 to 20 month type of cycle, because we blaze and then let the tree heal so it's not oozing sap, and then we
so
paint
that's
it
the current one we
once
have
it's
for it.
dry. So,
Yes.
so that was old.
Nah, but that's on your end, we screwed up.
Oh,
So this 575 is coming out of this fiscal year,
Right.
so we just need to start tracking that somehow better. Sorry, spreadsheet.
Well, this is a conversation we've had before, and you know, we can ask MTL to do something, and I think what we did was we asked Beth to do, basically to be tracking, you know, what we are billing, what our billings are against the allowance for the yearly allowance, so, you know, we can ask Beth to, you know, what the numbers are against the, 25,000?
No, I got knocked back to 20 because there was some confusion on what we were doing.
Alright, we proposed at 30, got knocked at 20?
No, we proposed it from 25.
25 and
we
went to
got knocked
Alright, I guess we, in December, we thought about 30, but you're saying we actually went forward at 25 and 20 was the,
I think so.
okay.
Um,
So, you know, it's a you know, on our side, we just need to ask Beth to run the numbers on that for us. And yes, we should track it ourselves, but
alright.
what we're able to do looking back is, you know, talk with our finance officer about it.
Yeah, I mean, so the Farron Gate is the only other really outstanding things that would have been 2K, but then we added, so FY18 additional 2K. And now we're looking at 5K of invasive. But I mean, just for the sake of making sure that it's actually authorized, and I would just motion that one along with anything. Did somebody motion the, cause the gate one, we had a phone call about that, and I'm not sure if you took care of it at the June meeting.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, so that one's done.
No.
Is the motion in the minutes for June. And then what else, so the management plan, you get back to us. So basically right now it's invasive pollinators, just the hourly stuff.
yeah,
So-
the hourly.
So that's a motion for 3820 plus 800 for Farron. And June minutes.
Okay, so 40. it's 2K and then yeah, I mean, so at this point, it only really matters if you run out of that $20,000 authorization. So that's 4620. So if we do 5,000 for invasives, we've got 20 minus 575 potentially, then minus 4620, then minus 5, so that leaves us, oops, okay. Just under 10,000 basically.
And halfway through calendar, not the. Yeah, halfway through the calendar. Maybe that's not a bad place to be.
No, not bad. We just need to encumber anything that's not done.
We had that discussion back in December, and I think the feeling was the only thing that we could encumber at that time was the Meridian payment, or the only thing that we felt we needed to at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, basically right now, I would just motion to authorize up to $5,000 for invasive species treatment on the town forest properties during fiscal year 18
Second.
to actually come from the forestry account, sorry.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that one? Any questions? That's up to 5,000 from the 2018 authorization town forestry account for invasives treatment on town forest properties. No more discussion. All in favor indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All in favor.
That's all I have. Anything for me, from you?
I think I was writing down some notes, so I didn't hear the answer to Steve's question about, I think it was is there a different payment or invoicing method? I forget what you were saying about, charging a per acre or a.
Oh, no, so there's an estimate on here of, just the rough per acre fee for management plans, and instead it just asked Jeremy to go ahead and
Get
give
an
us
actual number.
the actual number per plan by parcel by year. So the
Okay.
first ones that we ever did are the ones that are coming up. We've added to that, so not all of them are gonna expire now.
No, it's actually pretty nicely staggered
Yeah.
out
Mhm.
over a
Yeah.
10-year period. It was well done, actually. You did a pretty good job.
Yeah, so
So-
we've got the overview.
Yep, the master plan, then we
Yeah.
got the track level stuff, and this was basically just track level stuff. We probably should, I think it's be healthy to reevaluate the master plan too. I didn't-
Yeah, I would throw something
So,
in there if if we don't use it, if it doesn't end up needing to be a big change.
sure.
I would also just have whatever you produce be as viable for website usage as possible. Like hyperlinking within PDF or HTML, however the format ends up being, so we can, maybe as part of that process, who's doing the web now? for the
Mary.
town? Mary still is?
Yeah, I just give her whatever and she makes it happen.
Okay,
That's, I That's
Right,
you
we're
don't want
not doing development, we're doing posting documents. And-
Right, but you know, in
Right.
a PDF, like you can, or when you develop a Word document and change it to a PDF, your table, I mean, you could just like you're typing a table and it's just a dead table, or the table can hyperlink to the section. You know, you have to use
Yeah.
the functions within Word to attain that.
I don't know that we're
You
doing
can't
that.
change PDF though, once it's put in. I
Yeah.
mean,
No,
unless
you
you've
do
got
that
the
in Word.
software.
Yeah, you can,
And you
yeah,
can
We have-
maintain hyperlinks into your PDF if you tell it to.
right,
I think that's getting a
Word does.
little bit beyond what we're doing.
it's like 20 years ago technology
I know,
at this
I
point. I know, we're getting awful old.
Yep. Yeah. I do not believe we have,
I'm saying this go around, consider that.
if we develop them in that fashion and present them to Mary in that fashion as PDFs with the links active, then maybe we got a shot.
Yeah, you just, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
we're not gonna ask her to format it.
Oh,
in
No,
nonsense.
no, I'll
I
ask-
think she'd have a
Right.
yeah.
I'll ask our plan writer if
Yeah.
she can, if she, maybe she does this stuff already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So
So
I
you
gotta know.
got all your stuff? Anybody else have anything on the forestry?
I actually had a phone call, and I don't know if you wanna take it up now or later, but someone called me tonight actually, about 5 o'clock. They called and they wanted to know what the $2,500 was spent for a cleanup, what the lot of land was, and they thought it was 3 or 4 years ago. Do you know what they're talking about?
No,
That's very nebulous. No,
A
no
$2,500 cleanup is what,
cleanup of what from
some
what?
land that was
Land
town
cleanup?
forest. I don't know. I don't have a clue.
Mentioning town forest though?
Yeah,
We spent cleaning up what aspect of our town forest?
I don't know. I
Too many-
asked-
Trash or?
Too many
No
gaps
plot,
there.
no
Yeah.
nothing.
I'll have to call him back and get some more information, but I thought,
Hmm.
he seemed pretty adamant. I thought that we'd know, somebody'd know if I asked the question.
doesn't even sound familiar.
I'll have to ask him again.
I wonder what, like, is that in a report somewhere? I mean, I wonder.
I don't know where there's, where he saw it or didn't.
Rough time frame seemed like a
He's
reference
thought
a
about
few
3 or
years
4,
ago.
yeah, he's thought 3 or 4 years ago, and I'll go back and talk to him and ask him, what the cleanup was. Was it
Yeah,
trash?
a
Was it,
reference would be helpful on that.
yeah.
And
That doesn't sound remotely familiar.
All right, last thing I wanna toss in here, has been kicking around in the dark, rarely visited places in my brain
Oh, boy.
because it's a non-issue as far as I'm concerned, but I need to put it out there. We have no requirement to rebid any contract that we have bid and awarded.
Okay.
We have no intention of rebidding the town forester contract. There'd be very little value to doing that.
To rebidding what? The town
The
forester?
contract that the process we went through to retain Jeremy for these services. As a commission, we're very comfortable, and there's a lot of benefit from maintaining a relationship. So I just wanted to put that out there, and if somebody had a different opinion, to air it out now, or if somebody has heard, squawking about it, I don't wanna have the notion out there that, oh, well, you've had this for 10 years, you need to send it out to bid again.
Yeah, it seemed like the increase in the town warrant article precipitated some confusion of what really happened. Because somehow someone was under the misguidance that it just sounded to me like that we're paying you $20,000 just here to go do whatever, and it's just this little project by project. And half of what you actually do comes directly out of the revenue from timber sale, and that's pretty consistent with all foresters. Maybe there's a % or 2 difference here or there, but yeah, my position is that's not time well spent for the town, and Jeremy does outstanding work in the whole organization, so I see absolutely no benefit. And I also see that we've got essentially just a group of small purchases, and an awful lot of the purchases have actually been secondary contractors, whether it's people making a gate for us or surveyors, and you've used different ones. So I just, there's no value in it, no hope of it gaining any cost savings. Just ludicrous.
I'd have to agree with Steve. I mean, I'm new to the committee, but when you develop relationships, you would know if you thought they were out of line on anything, that you guys have been on the board long enough to figure that out. And you're getting tremendous, from what I've just gleaned tonight, we get tremendous value from MTL. They're being helpful, let us go on walks. I mean, they seem to answer all of the things we need. And the transparency is wonderful. That's always very important. As long as we've got that and we have such a clear line of communication and we've seen nothing but success with you, I can't see why we would want to monkey with that picture.
Well put, thank you.
Thank you.
No, I did say last, but I'll throw the alternate. We haven't discussed, or correct me if I'm wrong, any potential town forest purchase this year?
Oh, you had something on the notes here. What was that one about hardware?
So it was just FYI, and I know Blair. So there's Toby Hill, right, coming from 149 crossing Bartlett, that sharp corner, and the Pope zone, you know, the wetland side, and then there's a lot right here that connects to the Wolf Creek project property.
Down below Chase's.
Yeah, yeah, and that's owned by a guy by the name of Blair Hardwick, who's cousins of the
Hardwick lumbering.
yeah, the Hardwick logging.
Bennington or
Yeah,
Antrim area.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where Blair lives, but he let us use that landing when we worked on the Pope family lands across, and I just got to thinking when we were doing the boundary work, walking across it, it just like make a great candidate to look into. You know, it would connect the Pope conserved land to your property, and then you got Toby Hill and you got Bartlett across the road. It would link a lot of ownership. No idea if it's even an option from his standpoint, but it's something that I'm happy to just field the call if you want. That'd probably be the most efficient and yes or no sort of.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So
that
That'd
sort
be
of
great.
information would be helpful.
yeah, yeah.
And amongst, or myself, speaking for myself and anybody else, I don't think we kicked anything else around this year. Anything at all.
What's that size of that thing? Do you know? Must be
I was just gonna
six.
ask you.
Must be 60, 80 acres maybe.
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
So
So fair question. Thank you for,
yeah, sure.
you know, nuance, however you manage those things, discussion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can just field the question and report to you what he said, and we'll be mindful, you know, as we always are. You know, if there's something, you know, like down on Farron, over on the Jewett Road lots, you know, like. But we just never could get a hold of the woman, whoever
Right.
she is. If she is, who
Right.
she's, those would have been great purchases. Still could be. You never know.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You will hear from me,
Yeah.
because I would love to go up and
Yeah.
hear and
yeah.
see things.
Since I'm new, that's a good way to learn about our team and who we are. 'Cause it's
Great,
sometimes-
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So on your to-do list, you're gonna think about, you know, potential, time when we could do a walk in the woods?
I'll leave that up to you. You could, whatever works. You guys are you got more diverse schedules than me. I'm one person, so anytime, you know,
Okay,
within reason, anytime. Happy to take one or
Awesome.
10, 20 people, whatever. So.
well, that, it's valuable, so
Yeah.
thank you for
Yeah.
being open to that.
Yeah, sure.
Thank-
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Chair.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Happy summer.
Thank you,
guys.
you
Enjoy.
too.
Keep it safe out there.
Bye. Good night.
All right. Jumping over to Lanny's agenda. Unfortunately, they won't find it. I missed, I missed a report last year, first time I didn't get it together to have something put into the
Oh,
town
wow.
report, so.
Hmm.
We will make better efforts, next winter. So I put together March and April minutes. Those were, started, one of those meetings I wasn't even at, by Jeff. He forwarded information along. I packaged it a little bit, sent it along. Does anybody have comments on those meeting minutes? They're,
I can't really comment on them because I wasn't involved in March. In April we came in, but we weren't really involved. We got sworn in, I think, in the April minutes, so.
okay.
So we could still. I'm trying to think. Can we vote with just two of us?
We'll have to wait for,
Well, you can vote. Two of us would be abstaining because we have nothing to weigh in. You would be the two deciding votes because we have 4 people here.
Right, and one of those I wouldn't be able to vote on because I wasn't there either.
you may have to wait till Bill.
Can Zemi vote?
So I wasn't there on the April, I was there for the March meeting, not the April.
But if there's
But we could knock out the June ones, right?
I don't know. I mean, so we're not modifying anything. Just making a motion to accept the minutes. So do you really have to be there? Because even we're under the number, even with just that one was just Bill present. You know, just to.
You know, when I'm involved with them, you know, I try to make it as accurate a reflection as possible. You know, nothing's 100% perfect, and you could always add more, take things out that are a little squishy, but, you know, so when I'm done with them, I'm comfortable with them. So
Yeah.
my vote is sort of an automatic. It's more, you know, is there something important that was missed in the minutes, or is there something that's just, and we've had it occasionally, just plain, you know, erroneous or poorly written, so poorly written that it doesn't make sense,
But
that
that's
we'd like to
life.
purge from the record before we go final.
Yeah.
That said, it's always, it's, you know, rarely is there anything really, significant that gets changed. I'd be glad to accept a motion on the minutes, or,
Yeah, I'll just make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion on minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving right along. We have, looks like 3 planning board items.
Color me a picture.
We have a corrective plan, lot line adjustment plan, Timothy G. Farmer revocable trust, Misty Lane tax map 110, lot 57, no, sorry, 101, lot 57, 59, and 60.
It's up by the lake.
Yeah, just north of Lake Forest on Reservoir Drive. Purpose of the plan is to eliminate lot 59 by annexing parcel B from 59 to 60 and annexing parcel C from 59 to 57. Purpose of the plan is to allow the merger of lot 10159 into the other two lots respectively, to depict and create certain easement rights as shown. Approval of the plan does not create any additional lots.
What's the object of the exercise on this one?
Looks like
That's
they
what I'm
wanna
trying
merge-
to figure out.
He wants to merge one of the lots in between the other two, is that what he's trying to do?
Well, let's see, there's. Looking for the info. This was art plan 59, lot 59 before the adjustment is 0.27 acres. Lot 57 before the adjustment, 0.21 acres. And lot 62, 0.09 acres.
Is he trying to make it one big plot?
No, just eliminating that little point,
That little one.
0.27
Must be merging it
acres.
with another, one of the other pieces though, right?
Well, part goes to one of them, part goes to the other. 3 lots were created prior to zoning. The 2 remaining's lot become more conforming. So I guess the purpose is to make 2 remaining lots more conforming.
Well, it makes him a little bit bigger.
Does anybody travel through that lot to get to their homes?
That area's a little tricky down there, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is, it sure looks it, yeah.
Cause he owns the place just beyond the entrance, right, to the, lake? Is it the next place above where he lives, I think? Is that what we're talking about?
Where, who lives?
Him?
Oh, I'm not certain on that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not the map.
No, I was just playing with the kiosk.
Yeah, here's Waterman Road right here. It's roughly, I think, the entrance to Horace Lake is right in here. See, and if you look here, here's the end of Horace Lake, he's just beyond. I've been to his house, so I have some idea, but
Yeah.
Well, if it's already a lot and it's legal to do, I don't see.
I don't know if
I
you,
wonder why he wants, I don't know.
if you make this lot 57 more conforming, does that then make it buildable? The lot 60 is already occupied. Mm,
Is the other lot currently not buildable if he isn't allowed to add to it?
I think the .21 that small one, that I can't imagine that's a buildable lot, because you wouldn't be able to put septic or anything in. There must have been some little dubby piece of land that
So
never got put
it'll-
in.
The new one gets pretty close to half an acre, 0.49 acres.
Would that make it buildable down there? Do we need to send this back and say we need more information?
Generally, we
Well, he lives
can
there.
only look at, whether or not there's a conservation impact or anything. Not really. There's nothing to stop an owner from dissolving, move around lot lines. It's really conservation.
So as long as we don't see any conservation problems, it's good to go.
It should be. Things like wetlands, missing wetland stamps.
There is wetland there.
There are, that kind of thing should be shown.
So there's a proposed easement also. And somewhere in the proposed easement, hatched area is a pretty significant piece. See detail. And I don't see I don't see a description of the easement. Oh, well. It looks like Art is calling the area of the 25-foot wetland buffer a proposed easement.
Wetland in here, right?
Well, we got this 25-foot wetland buffer shown as an area, and then called out as hatched area proposed easement.
What kind of an easement?
And there's also a comment. 3 wetland buffer signs shall be attached to large trees along the driveway along the wetland buffer.
But is this easement so somebody can pass and repass over and over through the wetlands?
Yeah, she's got 10-foot wide right away.
Because when they have, if they have an easement, unless it's really tightened down, they can do all kinds of stuff to things.
Well, an easement's a broad term.
Yes,
But no, I mean, it's more the right of way or driveway you'd be looking for.
He's still got that, that's that Misty Lane.
So he's looking to pound a 10-foot driveway through the wetland buffer is what's really going on. This doesn't really show it that well. Unless that's
Or
already
is it-
existing.
That's what I'm curious about. Is it existing or not? And if
if it's not, then he shouldn't be doing it. Because if it's the wetlands, you're not allowed to disturb them, are you?
No, it's not wetlands, it's the buffer, it's 25-foot buffer. So no, I mean, if they have a way of going, if this is upland, there's no reason to put that in there, it should go over here. I'd just say, you know, this appears to, the proposed right-of-way, if that is proposed, inappropriately impacts the buffer for no reason, if this is all available. I mean, it's odd, what's the right-of-way to?
Where's he trying to get to with the right of way?
What's it say about the easements, or easement right shown here?
alright, as well as to depict and create certain easement rights as shown hereon.
If those easement rights are not tightened down, they can widen them and clear where they see fit. I went through one of this, I went through a lawsuit on easements.
Well, I don't see the easement. I see it mentioned but not defined.
Yeah, if it's not defined, it leaves a lot of wide interpretation.
So where's Misty Lane? You've got 7/2/18, Misty Lane right-of-way extended, see note above.
Is this Misty Lane in here?
Apparently.
How do they get to Misty Lane now?
They come in here, they're extending it, is what they're doing. Is this what he wants to do, is come through here? and get
Yeah.
onto Waterman, so he's going through a wetland, isn't he? Isn't this
Mhm.
wetland?
Well, he's going through the,
That would be the buffer, the 25-foot.
buffer. He's just hugging the wetland, going through the buffer.
So what, is he trying to make it easier for him to get out?
I don't know. It's hard to tell what he's trying to do. But yeah, he's going right through the buffer there.
He should come in, they should come in and explain this, cause it's really hard looking at that, see what the hell he's really doing. He's coming out to Stephen Chase's property, and Stephen Chase's property is in here somewhere.
And there's a buffer there for a reason.
Well, the buffers are zoning, yeah.
And if you're driving through the buffer, you better have a darn good reason for it, and so far we haven't figured that out.
Well, they have to go to ZBA to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, and it gets very, very confusing, because ZBA sort of likes to hear what we think, but can't really ask us what we think. There's some sort of weird.
All right, that makes
Yeah.
no sense, but it kind of makes the process muddy. Can we ask them to come in and answer some questions for us? The people who are wanting to do this?
What we could do is make that suggestion to the planning board, and at their discretion, they can
Yes.
decide to
Can I have to go faster?
recommend or send an applicant to us, or they don't have to. If they,
Well, just send a note that just says this looks like it impacts the buffer and we wonder why. Something to that effect.
yeah. All right, so that note to Craig. The lot line adjustment for Brian and Sandra Nichols, Mountain School,
Ball
and
chill.
Balch Hill. It does have a wetland stamp on it. Prepared by Keach Nordstrom. Purpose of the plan, to show information for a proposed lot line adjustment between the two lots, no other purpose. After adjustment, lot 160 is 5 acres. 5.08, lot 165 is 50.9 acres. Note number 6, there's a 25-foot wetlands buffer that applies to all wetlands.
So what is the lot line adjustment for their driveway? That's coming in here off Mountain?
Fine. I just moved the garbage.
508, 165.
160 becomes a... And I'm having trouble here is figuring out what 160 is. presently what the boundary is.
It's gonna be 5.8 acres after the adjustment.
Interesting,
Lot 165 is gonna be 50.9. I don't know why they're changing that.
lot lines of lot 160 to be discontinued, but that's very. Oh, alright. It's totally moving where 160 is. This is a current 160.
Mm-hmm.
Punting it over here, making this 160.
Plans to maybe subdivide that out.
So this 160 comes out of 160. 5 acres comes out of the
160.
50.9, and whatever this was, 4.8 acres goes back. So it moves
That over.
frontage from Mountain School Road over to
Balch
Balch
Hill.
Hill.
Gives you enough road frontage to have a 5 acre house lot without having to do any road work or anything like that.
But
Well, that's dirt though, that's dirt down there, I believe.
Yeah, but still, that's gonna be a class 5, right?
this, or this, and there's, yeah. Class 5, class 5.
Non-maintained, that's all thrown out, but got piles of dirt on both one end and the gate on the other since they cut off, Forefront. That's where Balls Hill is.
Oh, is that the one that comes all the way down to Forefront? Yeah.
Lot 165.1 is town of Weare.
It looks like maybe thinking about subdividing it. There is tar that comes in because there's a cul-de-sac at the top. And maybe he can come out just above that, I don't know.
Yeah, they say it's class 5 right there, so they're on it.
Very, yeah. Don't know. But that's what it looks like.
Do you have a minimum frontage that you have to keep over here or not?
Well, you could.
50 feet on the back lot. like
Well,
that.
that's a good point, though. That also gives this lot, gives 165 the frontage on Mountain School. It doesn't. Currently, lot 165 does not have
And if
frontage
it
on
gives
Mountain School.
165 frontage, that gives
Well,
them
that
the
needs-
ability
Yes,
to
on
open up and
250.
subdivide too.
He needs 250 feet for a house lot, so he's got it.
He's got it now.
No, in that case,
There was.
you can get 1, 2, 3, 4. You can get 5 lots off that. If you
So
really wanted
this
to.
one over here with formerly a right of way
He'll have to do something with those other
now
lots. though,
gets
'cause I don't
direct
think there's
now gets
250.
direct frontage.
Access, yes.
Yeah.
Which is probably why they're doing it, so they can actually do two sets of
Or this is a single house lot, and then this one is now
subdivisions.
Altogether.
subdivided.
But that had frontage down here anyhow, so I don't know what the.
Well, yeah, this one had frontage. I don't know.
Yeah, but they wanna come out on Balch Hill, I mean, you're right, how are you gonna get out there in the one time? I mean, you're right on a hill like this,
Mm.
I think he's down a ways.
Well, this, yeah,
And
it's
it's
just
not,
moving.
it's not town maintained, he's not gonna want that. I mean,
That has to, right? It says class 5. That's town maintained.
Right up to there.
Yeah.
maybe that's right at the top of the hill before it drops to over. Cause there's a housing development on the other side at the top,
That must be that Abbey Drive.
yeah.
Well,
But if it doesn't.
there will be. Looks like there's some sort of trail now. There will be wetland crossing. If this becomes a
Yes.
subdivision, they put a driveway in or a roadway.
Mm.
So, and if it were to come in from down here, there'd also be wetland crossing.
Which rules only let them do that.
I don't know.
If you pounded a class 5 road through there, you can, yeah.
I don't know the area.
Do we want to look at it?
I mean, so they say they're doing something, there's not really much you can go look at.
I mean, they're gonna build a house. He said he said a lot of it cut off, I know that, he's been cutting up there.
There we go. So there's a topo, there's the steep.
Yeah, yeah. They
And
call
that,
it
beyond that is class 6, beyond Abbey is class 6.
Right, so once you hit the top of that hill, there's a big pile of dirt there, that goes right down over and it's all wet down at the bottom of that hill. There's
You mean
a
heading,
wetland, yeah, there's a
heading east here?
wet area in
Yeah.
here, it's all
Well,
wet.
that's down here, yeah.
So they'd have to come up where Abbey Drive is to get out of this piece.
Existing gravel access.
I propose wall.
So
But that's what he's up, he just wants to.
this will be some other time.
No, his house is going in here, I believe,
Well,
in this road right away, right here. That's what he's doing, I believe.
well, they're not showing this one. They're showing this one as making it a building lot of record. This one over here is, you're saying currently it's not, no one resides on it, but that is,
Oh, I don't, they're building, I know that,
Is
because
there?
I've talked to him.
no, it's a different sort of one. I've never seen one where they just up and
Yeah.
plop the
I never
lot
have
down
either.
in a totally different location.
No,
Roughly 5 acres being swamped, which is a general idea of a lot line adjustment. Just not an adjustment, it's a wholesale relocation.
Mm.
I call it a lot line relocation. For a lot. Skipping a lot.
Mm.
Well, we got a wetland stamp on there. We got the 25-foot buffer shown. We got this can be accessed without crossing wetland. And this one already has an existing woods road at least that
yeah, something in there. I mean, they
culvert
were
through the
logging it.
wetland, so that's
Right.
already compromised to some extent. Alright. Any formal comments for planning board on this one? At least it's more understandable.
Yeah, that one's more, the other one is hard to know what they're doing.
Actually, is the buffer labeled on all of those, or
Is it what?
back to them?
On both of them, yeah. At least, this one's shown. That part's not shown, this part of the buffer's not shown. So it's, the focus of these plans is on the new 160. See, the revised 165, they're not showing that detail.
Yeah, but they delineated the entire thing, which is kind of odd.
Especially if he's building up there.
Because both lots are involved, both of them, all the topo was done, the wetlands were done, so shouldn't they both
Should all
show?
be done on both of them
Yeah, they should be done on both.
for us to make a reasonable assessment.
And Dahlberg stamps on the test pit data from both lots.
We don't see that data. So we need more information.
Well, that's where I would believe this comes back as a subdivision. When they do the subdivision plan, they'll show that.
Show that.
Well, unless he's using that as a driveway, something, just gonna keep the
Well,
whole thing.
Well, they were logging it, it might just be a wood road in there, that, you know, you gotta put a little gravel road kinda in to get the wood out.
See, the whole problem, I mean, so the zoning, cause I wrote the buffer is, forestry, agriculture exempt from it, but now we're showing what could be just a skidder trail as a woods road, which might morph into a driveway.
Yeah,
At some
when you
point.
start using the word
Yeah, because he's got a
road, you have to
250
look at
foot
this.
right of way, so he's got it.
Right, so I mean, that wasn't really the intention, so that's what I'm saying, if you show the buffer, what's the opinion of the surveyor now, is that wetland still intact? And that buffer still
Yeah.
intact or not?
We need more information than just a buffer.
Yeah, 'cause with a forestry notification, that's a temporary impact to a wetland, it's, use one of the BMP manual for whatever processing method you decided to use.
And if it's being used one way for the intent and now it's being used a different way, that changes it.
Well, yeah, I hate to see it try to be used to try to grandfather it into a
Right.
different use,
Right.
which is
Mm-hmm.
kind
It's
of a
very
problem.
backdoor.
Yeah,
Well, they've been doing
Right.
it for years.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
That's
That
the
doesn't
problem.
mean it's right.
No,
All right,
I mean,
question-
that's the problem.
couple comments on that.
Okay.
Yep.
Any more?
And really, the comments are on lot 165, which is not clear what the plan is. It's a night for lot line adjustments. This one,
Mavra and David have been.
Gould Road in South Stark, map 109, lots 1, 5, and 6.
Find the words I know.
What's that? Golden Star. Yeah, well, you know what Barbara was right on the corner there,
Right.
where the ice cream place is. Yeah, the granddaughter, I think, is gonna purchase the home and they're gonna something else out in the field area.
Prepared by Dennis McKinney. Note. Purpose of this plan is to adjust the lot lines between 109, lots 1 and 5, which are owned jointly by the applicant. Lot 3 is listed as owned by Town of Weare.
Oh, you know what that is? There's a cemetery in there,
Well,
right there on the bank. I bet you that's what that is. Yeah, see, 0.15 acres. 109, no, that's 6. 109.3.
Gesundheit.
Lot 1 becomes a 2-acre lot. Lot 5 is somehow maintained as a 18, almost a 19 going down to a little over 18-acre lot. Lot 6 gets a little bigger. But this is very curious. How do you change your acres, your total acres?
I don't know unless they're taken, I don't know how they do that.
After a lot line adjustment, how do you make more property?
Where are they growing the extra property?
There's something about this map, it's just
Well,
not very clear to me.
their house is right here, it's right on the road. I don't even know if it's 10 feet,
Yeah.
Right?
and there's the barn. Ice cream place is right here.
Correct.
So Lang Tots is right in here.
So this is current 109.
It's right here.
And where is it? Sorry, Matt, that's lot 4.
That's not even listed there.
Yeah, where's lot? I'm still trying to find, alright. This here, tax map 109, lot 1.
4 is the-
That's Carson's property.
So lot 2 is gonna be entirely within lot 1?
So they're gonna build in here, in
And
this little area?
guess so.
I don't see all the numbers in there.
Yeah.
Didn't take this kind of math.
Unless they're taking a small piece of wedge or something off somebody else's, vice versa.
They need to come back with some answers. This one's not.
This one's screwy
It
too.
is, it is.
Is this
I-
the evening tonight? Send
I
us the
guess-
strangest things you've got?
But you gotta ask yourself on that one though, is there anything of conservation value that we even need to worry about? Cause we're not really here to straighten out, what gets to the planning board. If there's nothing in there, I mean,
No
there's,
wetland in there.
well, way back here, but it doesn't look like
Yeah,
it's,
so they're not even close to that.
right.
Well, then if there's nothing in here, then we don't even need to weigh in on that part.
No, I'm not sure if they're obligated to, I've had ice cream there before and I've driven by there a few times, I've never seen anything, that's kind of a farm field, right, still?
Mm-hmm. And if
Well,
they
this is,
can't add
this
that
is
up
going
to
down
some
over
other
the,
board
this
to
is
make sure
going
it
down over the
adds.
hill. This is going down over the hill.
Yeah, you take it right on a Google Road, right?
Right,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the little cemetery's right here.
Yeah,
right.
So it's not, before you dip down over, there's a low spot in there. I think it's mainly wooded, isn't it?
I don't know, I can look it up.
Well,
Doesn't matter anyway. It's wet down in there, because the water runs under the
Yes.
culvert there, under the road,
Yes.
across the road's wet too on the other
Yes.
side. But
I drive up and down that every day.
but they're not
well,
anywhere near the
it
wet
doesn't
area.
seem like this plan
Right.
makes any attempt to delineate wetlands.
Yeah, and if they're
I
not
mean,
over
it
here and they're
shows
fine over
wetland
there.
symbols there, but it doesn't say anything about a wetland delineation, so. Well, it says swamp, there's a swamp down there. So I couldn't say whether, I don't know it well enough to say whether it does impact anything, but
No,
it,
it doesn't appear to be any wetland there anyway. It's
No.
on the hill.
Knock you on you, we'll all end up asleep.
I've been up since
Oh, nice.
Wait a minute. That's not on our, this one just came in yesterday.
Oh, then it can wait.
A variance to build on a class 6 road. We wouldn't wanna weigh in on that, would we?
Who's that from?
It
where
looks
is
like
it?
Craig. Bedford Design.
Where's it from? Where is it?
It's one that was added since the agenda was made. This is Horse Spring Hill Road.
where the hell's that? I've never heard of it.
Frankly, I think it should be Horse Spring Swamp Hill, or Hill Swamp Road.
Where is that? Do you know?
Located at River Road.
Oh.
Schedule the following plan for August 7th for ZBA.
Okay, so where are they trying to go on here?
Well, you know, on the cover page, the variance to build on a class 6 road. And I look at the plan, it says the purpose is to show a proposed driveway. Service 3 proposed single-family homes on lots 168, 69, and 7.
So they have to cross the stream? Yes, no? But are they crossing something here? Or is that just Burn Hill Road that they cross?
Well, I guess this class 6 down here is called Horse Spring Hill Road.
I never heard of it. I think I've ridden on most of these old roads. But this Barnett Hill Road here, so it's an old road that comes down through off Barnett Hill.
But if they're 3 separate lots, why don't they have 3 separate entrances? Why do you need one long one for everybody to traverse up and down everybody's lane, and pretty soon somebody's gonna have a fight over it?
Well, they're all gonna come in on the same
So
road.
this is going uphill as it goes up there
It'll-
between River Road and
Barnett
Barnett
Hill.
Hill.
So why
50%
wouldn't they each
grade.
have an interest coming in off this directly on their own? Why would you wanna do this?
So what are they trying to, that's a shared.
This is, yeah,
It's gonna be a shared driveway.
shared driveway, this is a class 6,
Right.
and these are lots on a class 6 road.
And this is gonna, sooner or later, there's gonna be a fight.
How can they even let anyone get away with that? Like, what would the justification be?
I mean, that's just dumb. They should be coming off here, here, and here. This shouldn't even be happening.
I thought a shared driveway is only 2 lots max.
This is only gonna be one big mess.
Well, it's trying to find a grade that is approachable, and apparently this grade here is too much.
Might be real steep.
So if you
How
kick
steep?
it over this way, you make it just barely meet the standard.
Hmm.
10% is a pretty decent grade.
Yeah. Looks a little unreasonable to me. Is it a conservation commission issue though, you know?
You wanna,
It's up there on the hill, so I don't know about water in there. I can't imagine there's a whole lot, 'cause it's rockier than heck on there.
Well, if they're going up, they're gonna have to hit the grade sooner or later, and my driveway's steeper than a 10% grade, and let me tell you, on ice, it's a mess.
You know, my comment would be that there's no indication that this is,
Our purview?
no, that they've had a wetlands, you know, that there, is there a statement that there are no wetlands?
Have they done a study?
This says a site's not in the 100-year floodplain.
It's in what?
Not in the floodplain.
Yeah, but it doesn't say there are no wetlands or anything.
Yeah, you could have a wet area and then not even know it, unless you
Right.
walked it.
So they need to do a study first.
Well, just make a statement that there are no wetlands.
Send it back to them, tell them to go look for wetlands and let us know. I can just see this down the pike being a big mess.
Yeah, looks like it.
I thought we tried to eliminate having those messes.
Well, I guess, Steve, it'd just be in general, do we have any general concern for building on Class 6 roads?
No, what we need to
We-
know is are there
Class six
wetlands
is-
in this stuff that he's in right now?
We did,
Class 6 not maintained, so.
we did make a statement, I think, in general, a few years back about basically not wanting to encourage more paving of roads.
Hmm.
I think that's the closest we've ever come to a general statement. I don't think we have any general, I don't think we've taken any general position on,
No, but there are
Building on
people
Class
who
6.
live on Class 6 roads who are already complaining that they're paying taxes for paving and they're not getting paved.
They don't, because town doesn't maintain it.
right?
I know that, but
But the
they
more
still have the same wormy attitude about it.
Yeah,
They built it, they knew when they built it.
I just think that we need to know that there aren't any wetlands on the property itself.
Yeah.
They need to do more
Well, within the proposed,
area.
yeah, for
Yes.
development.
Whatever disaster befalls them with the driveways, their problem.
Yeah,
If we were the zoning board, it'd be our problem, but we're not.
don't we have a fundamental concern on, cutting into steep hillsides? As erosion
Yeah, I mean, it's
happens
still
when you
pretty
disturb
steep.
stuff, and when you
Yeah.
erode stuff, you have let's just say, for instance, is it any concern of ours if they build something there that then washes out and, flows through the culvert and dumps into the north branch on the other side of the road?
Then that's a problem.
Is that something, or if it raced down and filled in a little, puddle wetland somewhere and,
Down the-
dropped
Down
6
solid,
inches
yeah.
of sediment, is that a concern we have?
well, is that an engineered roadway?
Yeah.
If
I
they're
don't-
gonna do that, I mean, that's. The
The
problem
other
is, they're making, they're going around the road, this should probably be a class 5 road. Or nothing, one or the other. Just servicing 2 house lots as a driveway.
Yeah, but now you're doing 3. And isn't there a law that you can't landlock somebody?
No, they're not landlocked, I mean, they can act, they've got a legal right to the
They've got legal
class
right to
6.
use the road once
Right.
it's in, I think.
No, not that, that's a driveway. See, those have a frontage on that class 6.
Yes.
It's just too steep to use, that's right.
Apparently that wasn't an issue back then. What else, boss?
So we got 3 pieces of Wetland Bureau Land Resources Management Program, they call it now. Correspondence. Shoreline Impact Permit. The statement here is, based on the information, a permit was issued 24 Oil Mill Road, Weare. Water body, Piscataqua River. Alright, so this is one we've been talking about,
Mm-hmm.
stipulations, native vegetation shall be retained in an unaltered stage, erosion control. All exposed areas will be stabilized that are adjacent to wetland, yada yada. So, checkbox there for Mr. Remillard. Now that's a big noted without comment. Christopher Whiteman. 571 Concord Stage Road, compliance inspection concerning slash that was left in a vernal pool after timber harvest in the fall of 2017. On June 20th, personnel conducted an inspection. While the area in question is a low-lying area and likely holds standing water at times, the area was dry during the inspection. Therefore, no determination was made as to whether it could be a vernal pool. Department found no conclusive evidence of a violation. Interesting, we don't see a lot of those, but complaint was made to DES. DES said there's no issue. The next one's another complaint. Pitbull Realty Group, 351 South Stark Highway. Complaint received of possible violations, placing fill in a wetland and conducting earth disturbance within the protected shoreline of Daniels Lake without a permit.
Where's Daniels Lake?
Right off Gould Road.
Yeah, right up
In
on
between
14, so-
Gould and
Oh, okay.
next one down.
Why can't I think of the name
Yeah,
of it?
it's
I can't.
uh,
I know it too.
all right. The department received a complaint. Department finds no record of a permit being issued for the work described. Work has been performed without a permit. Don't do any more work, but do erosion control. You need to get a permit. If there is a violation, the department has the authority to take action within 20 days. Respond to this letter. So something's brewing. We don't know whether it amounts to anything. But, map 109, lot 21 is, requested to respond. So, stay tuned. I don't know, it didn't come from us, I don't know what happened, but sometimes things are done without permits and they need to be corrected.
Next.
The last thing that came in through the mail is Cooperative Extension often has flyers that elicit interest in various programs. Somebody wants to look at a flyer, we have one, otherwise we circular file those. Alright, things not on the agenda. Anybody have anything?
Have you heard anything on B&D Lane?
I have not. Submitted, concerns, spoke with someone in the program who anticipated those concerns and has received them from other directions, but we've weighed in, and I think within, I forget what the time period, there'll be expectations of a response from the department. But I'm not sure whether it's 30 days or 60 days they have to respond to comments. There's a lot of awareness within the division, solid waste, about what's going on there, and they do understand that sometimes stuff gets approved that is at the local level that's kind of hard to handle after the fact, and there's sympathy, but sometimes not much that the department can do about, you know, that aspect of it, so we shall see.
Well, if anything, we've learning that we have to really, all the boards have to step up and do their due diligence way more thoroughly than we just thought.
Well,
We talked to them and
what
it's
doesn't
fine.
happen and could happen is we as a town could ask for and even rely on information beforehand, which oftentimes we don't,
Mhm.
because various groups within the department maintain a decent awareness of pitfalls, and after we've already approved something,
Mhm.
our ability to watch out for them is rather weakened. Now, that kind of transitioned into the Portland Ave development, which was a case where we did ask for the department to weigh in beforehand. The department provided quite a bit of recommendations, explaining that there's very little enforcement to their recommendations because of it being an orchard. That meant something to the Conservation Commission, didn't mean a whole lot to the planning board.
Yeah.
And that's one where retrospect,
Is this
you know,
the one
somebody from
coming
this
up?
commission probably should have actually take that. George Millette from this commission was on the planning board at that time, but he could never, or rarely speak forcefully as a commissioner. He was a planning board member. And we would have had to make the royal stink to really have a chance to have a really strong statement on the plans at part of the approval, and that just didn't happen. And the guy bought the subdivision and said, I don't have to do anything other than what it says on this subdivision plan, which is not much.
It's too bad that we don't have
No, but it means
people that
when we're on
understand
our
what we're
boards, it's
doing.
up to us to pay attention to our side of stuff.
But we're not getting fed the information a lot of times. That's why I said to the selectmen, you know, if we don't know about things that are going on like B&B Lane, and the planning board makes a decision
Yep.
on it, we're stuck.
Well, that's why you've got a
Yeah.
selectmen's rep on each of these committees, is they're supposed to go and they should be giving a report at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, every meeting. This, I would sit on this board, this is what they said, this is what's going on. That's the whole point of those things.
Was someone from the Board of Selectmen still on the planning board this one, or no?
Well, signed up, but I don't know if they go into the meetings or not.
Who is it?
I believe it's Jack Haney.
Like, you were all supposed to be, you know, you're on the selectmen, you're supposed to be, and you do talk about what's going on in the Conservation Commission. That's what the representatives from the Board of Selectmen are supposed to do, is bring the information back on a timely basis. That's what they sign up for, that's their job. Just like it's our job to be the stewards of our area.
On the Cortland Ave situation, I've been asked by my employer to sort of,
Stay out of it,
no, actually
Get into it.
to track it, so to speak,
okay?
to voice some concerns in this sort of combined, volunteer employment nexus. And that I did, and I've had conversations with the developer. I had a conversation with them yesterday. It's still a situation where the developer contends that very little is required of him. He's making the case that the arsenic contamination is background.
Mhm.
And I have been clear in my role that I understand the contamination to be such that he can't truck the soil off-site to some unknowing,
Correct.
I think some of it's
residence,
been
property.
trucked
He does it at risk, and it's the damnable part of it, because, the powers that be within the department tell me, well, we can recommend and then we can enforce if
If you know where they're
the
trucking,
wrong
if you
thing
know
is
where they're
done,
trucking
but
it.
if we find out, right.
Somebody'd have to sit down there all day long and follow the truck, sit way back out, kinda out of sight, and then follow a truck.
So there are two different things in my view. There's the soil
Contamination.
contamination with the, where's it going? because the builder or the developer very much wants to send it somewhere else.
Yep,
And
which
then there's
endangers
what's
other
left
people.
behind
It's still
At the-
contaminated.
Yes,
on the new lots.
Yeah.
And there's no way currently to find out, an easy way to find out when somebody buys those lots that will be buildable, that there's concern for the pesticides on them,
correct.
or at least as we're,
Until somebody's child gets sick or,
Somebody else.
I spoke with our land use coordinator, building inspector, keeper of many different things, and I asked him, well, you know, can we, he says there's nothing in the property file. Well, I was like, can we put stuff in the property file so somebody comes to town offices, pulls up the property file and finds,
Contaminated
oh,
ground.
there were reports on this from 2006 and 2005. And oh, there was a DES letter, and here it is. There's a copy of it in this file. And the last word was, if you want to do that, make a recommendation to the planning board.
Is there anything to stop you from going to the registry of deeds and filing that thing?
That's where ideally it would be,
'Cause that would be a smoker. 'Cause that would
but
kill
that's what
finance.
planning board talked about and firmly rejected.
Yeah, but can anyone walk in the
As
registry
a-
of deeds and file it?
I don't know. I don't know the
And
answer to
just
that.
tag it Cortland Ave. It would pop up every time.
Right.
Mm. Yeah, well, think about it, your concern is that if somebody buys a house down there, they've got
Mhm.
small children and
It's just,
they're out
it's
there
just
playing
a
in
buyer
it.
beware. Some people are totally happy with it, fine, you
Or
know.
if you're gonna have a small garden out there, you're gonna be eating food that's.
why, I know,
Now,
why is
now
the
the
planning
builder,
board
the
so
builder, the
skittish?
developer is saying, so what, it's background, it's everywhere, it's not even as bad as other places.
Why don't we just email Laura and say, can these be put in the registry of deeds?
Yep.
I think
It's
that,
correspondence.
Mm. And you know, that area where you go in, that was all wet in there. There was like a pond in there.
Yeah, but it didn't turn, I mean, Tom Carr's delineation didn't turn it up as a wetland.
Well, I don't know, that's been wet. I've been in Southway for 50 years, that's always been a wet spot. There's been water sitting there for years.
I know, I
And
looked
now
at it too,
they've-
it's all gone, but.
Now they've filled it in, but guess what? There was about this much water, probably a foot of water in there this morning. They were down in there playing in
Sam,
it.
take it easy.
I mean, professionally, he has to go through there with the Army Corps of Engineers manual. And, you know, between the soils and vegetation and looking for things like staining from water.
Oh, there's been water in
Delineate
there.
I mean, he can be wrong, you know, he can make a bad judgment call, but Tom's usually pretty good. I mean, he was off on his,
He was off on that other
Yeah,
stuff.
no,
that's
I-
Big time.
180 degrees off on that.
yeah, I don't know why. I was off.
Why is planning so hesitant to weigh in?
Mm.
Well, you get the folks coming in who have plans, and who are they rolling in with? They're attorneys, and they're saying, just begging to make this a legal battle.
Mhm.
And that's the first thing that this developer told me is, oh, I got, you know, I got some big investments in here, and we'll, you know, make sure that you talk to my attorneys on this.
He worked on my tractor, so I know him.
So that one, both of those are ongoing, and there will be more.
Yeah, ask Laura if we can put something in the file, and if anybody can go down and put something in the file.
I would do it, yeah, I mean, as Conservation Commission.
Yeah, well, I think both, there's one place that is discoverable from just about anywhere
Exactly,
you sit down and have, you know,
exactly.
internet access, and there's other one that
There's
if
places
you
in
go to
Florida
the
that
town,
they had
and what do you,
several
what's the
people
first
die
thing
of
you do
cancer.
when you buy a place in town? You're like, well, I wanna see what records you have on the place. Do you have
Yeah.
any plans on it?
Mhm.
No, I mean, shoot, I didn't even do that when I bought my chunk of land in Maine. I mean, I talked to a surveyor that knew the area. I wouldn't even think to go to the town office. I go digging through the
Plus,
registry
your
of
chunk of
deeds.
land doesn't even have any zoning, so.
Isn't that what?
You said it doesn't even have any zoning, so why would they even,
Yeah,
other
would
than a
have
tax
anything in
card,
the
there was not
office
gonna be
anyway.
anything there.
but no, I mean, it's more, I think you're looking at deeds. I honestly think you're looking at deeds. you know, your average person isn't gonna go
To the town office.
Correct.
and see if there's a file in the town. I would never even think of
A
that.
property file?
No.
We always do that in phase
Yeah.
one.
Oh, maybe phase one,
Absolutely.
but who's doing phase one? You're going to
Anybody who
buy-
has environmental concerns is doing a phase one.
Yeah, but someone's gonna go buy a house and he's gonna go, geez, that's a great looking house there, and they will never think of that ever.
Wow, and it's a great price, I'm gonna put a
Yeah.
deposit on that.
And then all you're doing is your attorney and your bank is going through the registry of deeds to see what,
No,
That's
you
going
buy
off
it,
the
you own
chain,
it. It hasn't changed. You can be completely blameless and you purchase it, now it's your problem when it comes to environmental liability.
Yes,
And, you know, even these days, not everything is known, and people should be concerned about purchasing real property.
oh, I know, but that's just not a standard part of the process.
the average person would never think like that.
Well,
You have the ability to.
understood.
It's
and
unfortunate, but yes.
I think my first, I think
Yes,
my concern was stated, and that was, yes, ideally it would be in the registry of deeds, where you
Yes.
can find it from anywhere in the world. You can go and take a look and learn something about a piece of property.
we were looking at a house in Florida, and in the area, they had several people, more than a natural number of people dying from cancer, and they maintained that it was due to one of the big aerospace companies. It was never proven, but when they show you houses in that area, every realtor makes a point of letting you know that this came up.
Yeah. But I think that would very strongly address the concern and allow people
Mm-hmm,
to, you know,
Make
make an
better
informed
decisions.
decision based on their risk tolerance.
mm-hmm.
And there may well be plenty of folks who have no concern whatsoever.
Well, if I knew it was contaminated the way I know it's contaminated, I surely wouldn't wanna buy a house down there.
I wouldn't either, you get stuck with it.
Huh?
You get stuck with it, you know, if that ever comes out in the news or anything.
Right, yeah, you get stuck with it and then, you know, you couldn't even unload the thing, nobody'd want it. You found out after the
It's
fact.
back on the town tax list again.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sort
but
of
you're gonna be
amazed by all
walking
this.
away and losing a lot of money.
Yes,
So the other part of that whole thing was, I had the bright idea, and not sure if it is a bright idea, it was calling Meridian and just while they're out there, getting a price to go put up, conservation easement signs.
Yeah.
Mm,
So if everyone's good, maybe just get a price to be
yes.
able to
sure,
deal with that.
Yeah.
My feeling is the boundary has probably already got nailed. That's why I had talked to Craig, and he ran over there and talked to the guys doing the construction, and supposedly they were aware of right where it was. It's already been conveyed with the town, but like somehow I doubt it.
I doubt it too.
So we'll see, and then that'll be a whole nother battle. If they've impacted the easement, they had no right to do anything in the easement
That's right.
because they stupidly conveyed it first. The previous developer.
Yeah. It's SHB.
Try to get a price on that,
Would you do that, Steve?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I think I'll step back from that one and, you know,
Oh.
lessen my various hats I'm wearing on it already.
Yeah. No.
Head getting heavy with those hats.
It's not a problem unless I get dizzy and lose my way. So
Any more good things for us to do?
that's
I haven't heard any more on Riverdale, really, and,
Yeah.
I know the people are up in arms.
Yeah.
They stop me every time, if I'm at the store, or if I'm in the center here,
Yeah,
you
they're
know, they're
not happy.
complaining. But, you know, the other thing was, there was never any impact study done on that.
The
No,
zoning
nothing.
board needs to change the zoning down there.
let me just do a quick email scan. Do we want to talk about the property list, town-owned property list, or are we good on
I think we're good on it. We're also running really late.
that? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, just a general FYI, just some perusing the list. There's a ton of properties in there with conservation. You know, there's at least 5, probably, that's 1, 2, 4. Probably like at least 7, that's not just going half. Because the funny thing is, like, unless you knew these areas, that Mars Ridge Road looks like a bunch of, you know, small properties, but that's one of those areas we've been trying to piece back together, down near Farron, and then, there's a couple up near Fige, not really
Fige
sure.
Bridge.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you have to kinda
couple
look,
tiny ones though in there.
yeah, you just gotta look how they're positioned to the, one of them's like right across the street from what do we call that wetland now? The one with the check dam. The actual property's right next to the check dam, so you might
it's at
want the
Lake
property.
Forest Marsh.
Yeah. Even access that check dam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyhow, so there's a lot of stuff that's worth looking at there. I know it seems like a lot of this stuff's not really worth unloading. There's a few parcels, one of them's, there's a couple 10-acre parcels that look worthwhile.
Just, where are we with Sinuosity now?
I don't know. I was wondering the same thing. They were supposed to update things.
I think there's an update and a little bit of
Field work,
finishing up the
additional field
ground
work, yeah.
pounding this month, so.
Yep. Was the last thing
Could
I recall.
you, try to check in before next month's meeting with them, where they're at?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Do we know if there's any other, land, like the piece down in Riverdale that's industrial, that's sitting right on a river or on an aquifer in town, that's between B&B Lane and Riverdale? Is there any other parcels in Weare?
I have no, there probably are. You'd have to just do a GIS analysis with the zoning.
Oh, there are a few huge parcels in there.
I mean, I think really we should be looking to take that stuff out of, so it's not
There's
an
also-
industrial park sitting there on an aquifer.
Penachuk operates a water system for at least the much of the west side of Daniels Lake.
Oh, they do now?
Yeah, it was a private one, and
Yeah,
they were contracted to operate it, last I knew.
oh, because they used to have some problems with that, didn't they?
Yeah, and they should be keenly interested in wellhead protection area preservation.
Mm-hmm.
And there is potential loan and grant monies available through the state for source water protection work, so that might tie into some of that thought that you're thinking about there. Cause I knew this grant thing was going on, but kind of racking my head. It's like, well, we don't have
I just don't
Don't
know.
really,
I've asked
we
the
don't have much for a
question.
public water system in this town. So how can we apply for source water protection grant monies? And like, well, actually, Penachuk's got a well, they're pulling a fair bit of water, so maybe.
Maybe.
You know, I saw something like posted, maybe down the ATM or something at the bank, but it was like looking for people to participate in the master plan update.
Yes.
Yeah,
What's the deal with that? Is it, who's updating the master plan? I didn't-
well, they've got like 10 people signed up.
Aren't they trying to do a committee of like 20?
What is the town,
Up to 20, but they've got 10 people that are gonna go with that 10, I guess.
or is it
Town's doing it.
southern New Hampshire or the
No,
town
the town's doing it.
itself?
Are we talking, you're
Oh,
talking about a
yeah.
master plan update again?
Mhm.
Yeah.
In 10 years?
It's been over 10.
Yeah, but shouldn't we
Isn't
usually
that
pay
through,
southern New Hampshire? Yeah?
well, who's running that show? I thought it was planning boards.
No, they posted it and got 10 people and,
But wasn't this triggered though when New Hampshire came in, the organization, they were talking about, older people demographics and,
yeah, it was for,
somebody who's going to be in their house but doesn't drive anymore, do we need a bus system? And
yeah.
that's what triggered it. It really
that's
didn't
what-
trigger the need for the master plan to be done. This is a group promoting a whole different partial,
Right.
and this tripped the switch, and so
Mm-hmm.
they decided, oh, we'll get on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's realizing that it's all gonna cost taxpayers a ton of money. And
I don't know what it'll be. guess it'll cost something, cause they'll have to reprint the thing eventually. I mean, I worked on the last one quite a lot, but I don't know what they're gonna really update.
We're not gonna build any big buildings for the next 10 years.
So you're saying the committee has been or will be put together for that?
That's
It
been
is.
put together.
That's supposed to be the foundation for zoning,
They've started a meeting.
yeah.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah, they
And-
didn't really talk to us much. I remember like ripping through the last one, trying to get them to change a bunch of stuff.
Right.
Well,
So who's
So you-
who's guiding the committee?
I don't know who's actually guiding it.
Who's on it?
There's,
Helene Kirk?
well, Helene's Kirk's on it, and Mike Sullivan.
Mm-hmm.
Mike has probably got quite a lot of background, because he's worked on several, I guess. But I don't know, I really don't know too much. And then the other, Jan Snyder's on it from the Selectmen.
Okay.
And then I don't know the other people. I don't know that, I
Didn't
haven't
the
even
board
seen the
appoint
list.
them?
They haven't been in yet. They haven't been in to be appointed at this point, as far as I know.
They're having a meeting and they haven't been appointed.
They're not, I don't think they're appointing. I think they just asked for 10 people, you know, well, actually 20, I guess.
Is this another one of those off subject, a committee that doesn't have minutes again?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how you could update a town master plan without being,
I don't think that anybody's been sworn in, as far as I know.
Well, then how can they even do it? Because they don't have any authorization and you have to have public meetings so people know, and then you have to keep minutes. And if it's another one of those circuses that we were involved
Well,
in.
maybe they just read the list of names off. Maybe they read them off and just put them all on.
I don't know.
I guess that's what they did. They actually read a bunch of names off one night. I don't think, no one's been in.
Mm-hmm.
be good to make contact with
I
them.
guess I
make
can
sure.
ask that question. I
That
just
would
don't
be
remember
good,
it.
because you know what went on with the minutes for the building committee.
Mm. Yeah, I'll double check. I think they added Mike Sullivan on, so I think they kinda did it verbally there, but no one came in and,
All right. We have that.
Motion to
Gloria's
adjourn?
motion.
Yeah.
I'll make a
Second.
motion to adjourn.
All right, then
Ready
sort
to
this
go,
out.
young
Who
lady?
made motion?
I mean, a second.